What's up, everyone? I'm Co Connolly, and it finally came. Okay, so the Cult Series Bible, yes, it is very small, very tiny. I made it that way on purpose. It is a 4x6. It is the cutest freaking thing I think I have ever created. Just saying. I think it's adorable. I love it. It has, okay, so let me point this out. I do have it in like little sections and stuff like that. So like you can see where it has ceremonies and the leader offering. And there's also like a playlist of my cult series. So I read some of these prayers and the ceremonies and stuff like that. And I explain them a little bit more. And then I've got the prayers of the disciples. So there's all that. This was something. Let me put it that way. This was something. So at first it was kind of like, I wanted to do it like Bible style in a way. So I read a lot of religious teachings and things like that. I read the Bible. I was reading the Mormon book, and it was a lot. Let me tell you, I have so much religion in my head at this point. I went into a Christian bookstore and I started picking up all these little books and stuff like that about all the different religions. This woman comes up to me and she asked me if she could help, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna look at a few of these. And she walks across the store, grabs herself a Bible, comes over, hands it to me, and she goes, I think you might want to look at this too. And I was like, okay. I wasn't gonna tell her that I was I was creating my own cult. That bookstore no longer exists anymore. That Christian bookstore no longer exists anymore. It's been shut down. I think it's some kind of clothing store now. I don't know. Anyway, so I do still have that Bible as well. Not to say that I didn't already have 3 or 4 of my own, because if you've seen the video, I did go to church a lot before. Anyway, and I have a video about that too, of why I stopped going to church. So I created my own cult, okay? I had been researching since 2016 on creating my own cult. I went through and did all the religion things. I looked through all of that because I wanted to know. So I initially started writing this as kind of like a religious book. So it had like these little things here and there, creationism, blah, 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 right? No. Here's my thought process on this. After I went through it, it went to the beta readers for the first time. It was almost received as there's something missing from this. And I was like, great. So I had gone through it and I kept going over it. And of course, this took forever, mind you, for this, it took me forever to get through what is it missing? What is going on? What is happening? And just one day it clicked. I write books. This is not story format. This is legit just here. You know, they always say that do that show, not tell type of thing. And this was basically just a lecture in a book. And it was kind of irritating me at that point. And if my books irritate me, the entire thing gets scrapped and I will never look at it again. I have 4 of them in my office back there that will never see the light of day because legit, they just didn't work out. So I was like, no, the 4 books that go after this, I am very proud of. I love this series. When I write, I try to give people more of a sense of, think about the world around you and the way that I portrayed it in the book, because a lot of the times it's true. With the Affair series, you never know who somebody is, and you really have to be aware of your surroundings or something bad could happen. That's just how that works. For Friendly Misfortunes, you never know how crazy that ex is gonna go. Just saying, I had a crazy ex strap an explosive to the windshield of my car, which is a whole other story. And that's the reason why I used to like to keep their old driver's licenses. I used to say, oh, because I just want to have it. No, it's so I can give it to the cops in case you do something crazy. Just saying. And then there is Killer Suburbia. You don't know who your neighbors are. You don't know what they're doing. Your neighbor could be burying bodies in the backyard. You don't know that. And it's more of a sense of you can see it going on around you. So that was the one thing that I did with the cult. It's basically, it is, I want to say it's a little political, but I believe that religion is a little political in certain senses because they try to insert themselves into politics where it's not needed. It's really not. So in this sense, it's saying, in my cult, it's saying that the government and the politics the politicians, they have no say into what goes on with the disciples. The disciples are their own thing. And the reason why I wanted this to be so short was because in the Bible, it's like 1,000 pages. First of all, who needs 1,000 pages just to be told not to be an asshole? I'm just saying, who needs 1,000 pages to be told not to be an asshole? Why not just do it in 125 pages? So it is very short. It, like I said, let me see. It shows it's 118. Okay, so it's 118 pages. And that's just the reading material part. That doesn't count the other pages that I had to count when I went and, submitted it, because you have to say how many pages are in the front, the back, whatever's before and after the writing, right? So it's like 125 pages. Either way, here's the deal. Politics has no place with the disciples. Politicians cannot tell them how to live their life. And as a matter of fact, it's even in there that the government has no rights over the disciples. But there's also a part in there where it says that the whole Cain and Abel situation in the Bible was probably the first hate crime. Maybe Cain was upset that Abel, did not want to have the company of women. So Cain was mad about that. So Cain decided, okay, fine. It didn't matter. He was happy with his life. He was happy just doing what God wanted him to do. Didn't matter. Maybe a new man would come into his life or something like that. And Cain is thinking, no, we're here to procreate. Not everyone's here to procreate. So Cain got mad. Maybe it was the first hate crime. I'm just saying, you never know. And the way things are translated in the Bible, because it was Hebrew the original Bible is in Aramaic, an ancient language that no longer exists. And then it was translated several different times, which at the time there weren't words to translate some of those words in other languages. So, yeah, they just made that shit up. And then it gets to English. There's that thing too. So then it goes to English. Well, English is one of the newest languages of all things. So the Bible is translated incorrectly. It's not even that it's translated incorrectly, but when people read it, they're translating it incorrectly. That also includes, I've noticed that people do that in their real lives. Someone will say something and it offends someone else. It's like, dude, you didn't even listen to what I said, type of thing. You know what I mean? So all these people who are offended by everything, you're not paying attention to the actual context of the form. Anyway, so here's the deal. The disciples, they're all, I'm gonna put it this way. It's similar to like the LDS, where they basically live on their own compound. They're self-sufficient inside their own compound, whatever. Of course, they are recruiting people in because there is a multi-level marketing aspect to the disciples. You get to move up with more disciples that you recruit in, which also includes your pay. So you get paid a certain amount as a starting disciple. And then you go through and you do the God's cleanse, which is like their baptism, right? It's just washing you clean of your outsider life. So that's now gone. Now you're, with the disciples. So then you get paid more. And then you get to go out and you get to recruit new outsiders. And the more you recruit, the more you level up, the more money you make. So I added that in there because I watch some of these anti-MLM videos And they're always talking about how culty a lot of those multi-level marketing companies are. And I'm all like, yes. So I added that aspect in there to give it a little bit of fun. There have been a couple of times where my computer is reading me parts of the first book, which, by the way, I have now named The City of Disciples. So I have Disciples Doctrine. The book right after that is City of Disciples. I haven't gotten anything else after that because it was named as Cult Series Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, Book 4. So that was the names that were on them. Now I'm having to come up with actual titles. So the first book is City of Disciples, and it does show how they go from, you know, just the guy who basically was chosen by God to bring in these disciples, and he's living on this own little public land property that no one else actually knows he's there. He's camping, you know, like a homeless guy. And someone else stumbles across him, and he explains to her the entire premise of the disciples, and she's really excited about it. So she helps him kind of figure out how they're going to recruit new disciples, and they start doing that. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're going to need more property because technically this is public land and they will be trespassing if, you know, so then they move on. Of course, now I'm going from this into City of Disciples. So they do get, you know, their own land and everything, and they're setting it up, and there is, you know, several shunnings of outsiders who are total dickbags. But there's a whole other storyline that's going on too with one of the disciples who's getting very inappropriate with the leader, and that happens. Right now she's in one of their isolation, which is basically like their jail. So it's a whole functioning society inside the disciples. And I made this small on purpose. Let's get back to this. So I made this one small on purpose because this is basically the rules they live by. It is referenced constantly because these are the rules they live by. And it does actually give you that. Like there are sections in here, like this one shows converting outsiders. So you get to see exactly the way that you're supposed to go to convert the outsiders, and what's expected of them when they get into the City of Disciples, and everything like that. And some of these aren't very long at all. And then others are a little bit longer. Like here's God's cleanse. So you can actually see those little things. Oh, here we go. This is the one I'm looking for. Okay, so in this one here, this is isolation and shunning. So this actually tells you all of the evil acts that you have to commit. Ooh. It actually tells you all of the evil acts that you have to commit in order to get put in isolation. And then it tells you exactly how long you're going to be in isolation. It's basically deemed upon whatever, you know, evil act you have committed. It also talks about how children under a certain age can only spend so much time in there, but if they spend or if they end up in isolation 5 times, their parents get shunned, and then the children end up with the leader. So you got to watch for that. Watch your kids, because you're the one who needs to be taking care of them. I'm just saying, that's how that works. You don't want your kids to be assholes, because if they are, then you're the one who dies, and then the leader takes them over. I'm sorry, you're the one who gets shunned. Yes, shunning is disemboweling, you know. I mean, I'm a horror author. I have to write something gruesome. It is pretty gross. I did several of them, and it's like, wow, this is a lot. And I'm very excited about it. I'm just saying, the shunning is my favorite part of the whole thing, but I think that's just because I'm disgusting and gross. But I will tell you that there are still cults out there that exist. There are still people out there that live in these groups that, you know, out on the land, and they basically keep to themselves. That's the whole point. The disciples, they keep to themselves. I mean, yeah, okay, so they're shunning, you know, people and stuff like that, but that's not the whole point. The whole point is for them to live self-sufficiently and for people not to be assholes. Like, just everything should be happy. And they're basically inside the City of Disciples, everyone is equal. And the entire message of the disciples' doctrine is acceptance, equality, and tolerance. And it is mentioned several times. And you're supposed to accept everyone for who they are, you be whoever you want to be. And here in the disciples, you will be accepted for who you are. It doesn't matter. I have 2 transgenders that are actually in the city of disciples in the first book. The transgender man is actually one of the disciples guard, because he does get 12 disciples guard. He is the leader. Jesus had 12 disciples, so I figured, why not? So, and he ends up meeting another transgender woman, and she comes in, and now I don't know if that's wrong for me to do it that way. I just felt like the 2 transgender people in the city of disciples would have more in common, so that's why they're together. It doesn't matter. It's fiction. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I was so worried about that one part. I was like, is this okay? I don't know. But anyway, if you have any comments about that, leave them in the description or leave them in the comments below. I will, look at it. I could probably do a complete rewrite. I completely rewrote this. Took me 5 days. Completely rewrote it. Gave it an entire story form. Of course, it was already written, basically. I just gave it more of a story format. So anyway, and then it was easier to get through once I gave it a complete and total story format. But if you have any comments over anything that I say about the disciples, please let me know, because I want to make sure that I get this correct in a way. I want to make sure that it is a safe space for everyone to be whoever they are, and that was the basic point. People are so quick to anger in the world because, like I had said in one of my TikTok videos, most of the people in the world are so angry because they don't know how to mind their own damn business. I figure if people would just mind their own business and just worry about who they are, we wouldn't be worrying about who everybody else is. And that's one of the issues. People are so worried about what other people are that they're not worried about themselves, and they're just so angry about everybody else. Stop being angry about everybody else. Worry about your damn self. That's exactly what the disciples do. As long as they live in the city of disciples and they work on the land and make sure that it stays just as beautiful as God created it, bring in more outsiders to understand that, God is looking for everyone to be in the promised land. That's their heaven. This is just the physical land, which is the earth. And you bring them in to help make sure that the physical land stays as beautiful as God created it. And, just be who you are. Accept everyone for who they are. And everyone is equal. Everyone gets the same rights in the city of disciples. Everyone basically has the same, not really the same jobs, because that's not true. Everyone has like their own little special things that they do. I'm sorry, my eye really itches. But everybody has like their own little specific things that they can do and stuff like that. Like, I'm gonna actually assign a lot of the male disciples to do laundry. I mean, I don't know how well that's going to work out because, but I'm just saying there are going to be, female disciples. And of course, none of them are mentioned that way. It's not man and woman. They're all disciples. That's just how it is. They're all disciples. Who gives a crap if you're male or female? You're all disciples. You're all equal. You're all getting the same pay, essentially, except for the levels. So the more outsiders you recruit, the more you're going to make. And of course, it does sound weird, though, that they're getting money, when they just live inside this little city and they all have uniforms, but it's a different color depending on which level you're in. So that's one thing that's mentioned, but it's also mentioned why they're getting that money, because they are having to, basically pay for their not really living expenses, I gotta say. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But they're paying their way is how that works. Because, everybody has to. You have to pay your way. Now, it's not like taxes or anything to the city of disciples or anything like that. They're not paying taxes. Like, they're legit buying things from other disciples who are employed by the city of disciples to do things. Like, there's one disciple who legit makes all of the uniforms. So if you need a new uniform, because you only get assigned one, so if you need a new uniform, you have to pay for that uniform. You get assigned the one when you first come in, and that's because you're basically relinquishing all of the funds that you have from your outside world to the city of disciples. That goes directly to the leader in order to sustain the city of disciples. And my whole point is that we really need to start living our lives and just live for you and stop worrying about everyone else. And all of these people who get on social media and they complain that, oh, society this, society that, but you're not really doing anything except for complaining on social media. Like, I'm going to say that there is a group of people on social media who is complaining about society and the way that they feel they're treated from society, but they're not doing anything to change it. Like, they're just complaining, if that makes sense. And in a way, their complaining is, hold on, I need to plug it, my phone. I do have a tripod now, by the way. But their complaint is more of, society needs to cater to me. I need society to cater to me because of this, And it's like, why don't you just live your life for who you are? If that's who you are, great. Be happy with yourself. Because I remember back in the 90s, nobody gave a shit who you were. You be you. That's cool. And then all of a sudden, it turned into everyone needs to cater to this type of person. No, we're not. Can you just be who you are and be happy with who you are? Because if you're not happy with who you are, then you're basically blaming other people for who you are. And that's not how this works. If you're a disciple, you're accepted no matter what. And if you're an outsider, then you're just unhappy. And that's basically how it works. I'm just saying. Be happy with who you are as a person. The government sucks, regardless of who's in office. I really don't care. I'm not political on one way or the other. I'm really not. I don't care. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm just trying to live my life. And that's just how I see it. There's no control over what the president does in office. Like, legit, we can't control what he does. He does whatever he wants to do. So did the last one. Basically did whatever he wanted to do. There was nothing we could do about it. It's going to happen regardless. They're going to do whatever they want to do. We can't control that. Now, voting, on the other hand, that's how we control things. But that's not always true because, the government is going to take over and do whatever the hell they want to do anyway. So we live in a country where basically the government runs the whole place and we just kind of have to bend over and take it, So here's the deal. The disciples cannot be controlled by the government. The government has no control over what the disciples do. So join the disciples. We are happy. We are just one with God and nature. And the government has no control. Everyone can be whoever they want to be. And as long as you're not an asshole, you don't get shunned. Stay out of isolation. Oh, and here, let me go ahead and read you these evil acts so that you know. They're very simple. It's very simple. So, evil acts that require isolation include disrespect for God or the leader, treating any other disciple as though they are less than equal to themselves. So if you treating someone over there like, I'm better than you, bitch, no, you're not. You're going to isolation. Sorry. Taking something away from another disciple, whether it be directly from their hands or secretly taken from their housing unit. That's just stealing. It's a long-formed way of saying don't steal, and that includes snatching it from their hands or, breaking and entering. It's just a nicer way to say all of that. Reporting false information about an outsider or another disciple. Bitch, don't lie. Don't be a liar. Isolation. Reporting, I just said that one. My bad. Taking another disciple's connected partner with the intent to mate. That just means don't have sex with someone else's husband or wife or connected partner. Don't have sex with someone else's. No adultery. There we go. No adultery. Ugh. Taking more than one partner with the intent to mate. Okay, we're not polygamists. That's not how this works. One person for each. Don't be selfish. That's how that works. Placing hands on another disciple or outsider with the intent to inflict harm. No fighting. Don't fight. That's just it. No throwing punches. Don't do that. And here's the last one. Any use of a weapon or one's own hands to release another disciple or outsider from the physical land. Don't murder people. Now, the last one, that's not even isolation. Yeah, you get isolation, but it's only until they decide, okay, now it's time for the shunning ceremony. That's how that works. And it also says here, anyone inside the city of disciples who commits any of the evil acts mentioned in the disciples' doctrine will be placed in isolation for a set period of time determined upon the action. Once their time has been completed, the isolated disciple or outsider must receive one cut from each disciple affected by their actions. That is your being bled of the evil act that you committed. Now, while you're in isolation, you're also having to sit with the leader and everything else, and you're having to do like one-on-one worship services and like Bible studies and stuff. That goes from the disciples' doctrine. So he will sit there and he'll talk to you and blah. Anyway, I'm going to go because this video is now almost half an hour, and I just wanted to show you, look at how adorable this little bitty thing is. Join the disciples. We are happy here. We are living on our land. As a matter of fact, I live on 3 acres. So I get to enjoy God's beautiful creation every single day. So there is that. I'm still looking to put a little like greenhouse out here to have my own little veggies, because that would be awesome, because the grocery store ones don't last very long. But anyway, join the disciples. We will accept you for who you are, no matter what. Doesn't matter your size, shape, color, or sexual orientation. You are all accepted into the disciples. That's it. That's all I have to say. Okay, bye.